Hi, today we are going to look at lesson 7, which is adding and subtracting decimals. So we've been adding and subtracting whole numbers, and the concept is very similar, but really understanding what the value is of each of the digits is going to be the key thing here. So we will also be looking at story problems as well and understanding whether we're adding or subtracting these values. So let's take example 1. From his home, Tim rides the bus 3 and 62 hundredths of a mile, still practicing that mathematician reading of the numbers, 3 and 82 hundredths of a mile. Then he walks, okay, so he rode the bus, and then he walks 4 tenths of a mile from the bus stop to school, okay? How many miles does Tim travel from home to school? So we have some walking and bus in order to get from A to B, right? So what I want to show you is that something that you know about the grids are out of how much is each grid worth? How many pieces are there? So there's 100, right? So 1 would be 100. So if I'm trying to represent a whole, I can say that this is 1, 2, 3 wholes. And then do you see how this is shaded? I have a rod, and a rod is worth how much? A tenth. And then, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 2 more. And those are each unit cube. How much is a unit cube worth? Yeah, 100th. So we can see that here we have represented, and I will highlight for you. It's a large highlighting. So we can highlight and show that we have 1, 2, 3, and then 3 and we have our 8 tenths, and then our 200ths. So 3 and 82 hundredths. Okay. Then if we are also walking, we are going to add that on as well. So we walk 4 tenths, Tim does, and we have to add on to what we already have. So it looks a little puzzle piece-ish instead of just doing 4 rods, because we want to see its total. If we just did 4 rods over here, we would still have to be counting on. The thought is with the area models is that you can quickly glance at the models and have your total. So then you would easily see, okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes now, right? So let me represent that this was our 4 tenths. So now total we have 4, we're adding them, 4 holes, and then how much in addition on this 100th grid? So we have 1 tenth, 2 tenths, and then, so if I have 2 tenths, and then 2 hundredths. So I could have even just counted this whole thing and said I have 22 hundredths. So we can find our answer. Now, because this is a story problem, we are still going to even consider what this value is worth, and it is 4 and 22 hundredths of a mile, because that's what the question was asking, how many miles. Okay, so the hundredths grids is a nice way to visually see and quickly get your answer. The whole reason we would even still think about area models, it's proof of where these values come from, so that we can see how they add up or even subtract here in the future. Another way we can picture and model our decimals being added or subtracted is a number line. So with a number line, we would start with where our highest value and then add on to it. So you can see we're counting on by tenths. So we have 3 and 8 tenths, 3 and 9 tenths, and then 4 wholes, and then 4 and 1 tenth, and so on. So when you can look at this, we can see where our beginning total is, and that would be that we have 3 and 82 hundredths. Now, I'm showing you the model that this jump that's happening is worth 1/10 because we're adding on how many tenths total. So we had 3 and 82 hundredths and we're adding 4/10, right? So if we look at the pieces in between, where did that 1/10 come from? There are not 10 pieces in here to be 1/10. Well, if you think about it, it's counting by twos. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? So that is allowing our 1/10 to be happening. So and then another tenth, so that's 2/10, 3/10, and then we add it on to our 4/10. Now, because it's counting by twos and we are just past 4 and 2/10, we have a 4 and 22. So this would be 4 and 22, and this one would even be 4 and 24 hundredths, right? Now, the biggest thing that we are going to be using that, let's put all those, now that we can visualize it, let's put it all together, right? And we can use our place value concept. So what we know about our place value is that every single place value needs to be lined up when we are adding or subtracting decimals. So if I write my first number, right, I have, this is the what place value? The ones. This is the what? Tenths. And this is the hundredths. When I look at this 4, it's in the tenths. So I need to line up my 4/10 right with my other tenths. A lot of times teachers will say, line up the decimal points. The reason is why? Why does lining up the decimal points work when we're adding and subtracting decimals? Because if the decimal points are lined up, then all of the place values are in the same spots to add or subtract. So we kind of have some gaps here. And a lot of times students will like to fill in those gaps so that they can visualize what's technically there. If nothing's there, the digit is a 0. So we can we can add here because we are finding the total miles he is walking and riding. So and then 8 plus 4, carry the 1, and then the 4. Now this right now answer is 422. So the last step in order to get a correct final answer is to put our decimal right in line with all our other digits and our other decimals. So that way we have a accurate answer of 4 and 22 hundredths. And then of course, because it's a story problem, we're still going to put miles, okay? So lining up those place values and then adding or subtracting. So let's look at this. What if it was subtraction? Marty cuts, that's a dead giveaway that we're taking something away, right? Cuts 1 and 4 hundredths of cheese from a 3 and 7/10 ounce block of cheddar cheese, okay? How many ounces of cheddar cheese are left on this block? So we're taking a chunk away from it. So what you can see from our model here is that we have 1, 2, 3, okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 and 6/10, 3 wholes, 6/10, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, shaded in. That's too many, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is shade in here. I'm going to get rid of that because it should be 3. Oh, it should be 3 and it should be 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of these need to be shaded in to be 7. There we go. We're not taking it away because what are we starting with? We're starting with 3 and 7/10. So I'm missing some that need to be shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then these last 3 need to be shaded. Okay, now we have the correct shading to represent what we're starting with. Then we can take away our 1 whole. So our 1 whole and our 4 hundredths. So you can see my X is on taking away 1 whole. It wouldn't really matter which one you took away. And then 4 hundredths. Each unit cube is 100. So if I take 4 of those away, I would have, okay, I have 2 wholes left. And then my decimal to separate that place value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6/10 left, but I have some pieces over here on this rod still. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 and 66. Now how many ounces? We can label that with an OC, abbreviation for ounce. So 2 and 66 hundredths. Logically, think about this. If I have about 4, right? I have about 4 ounces to begin with, and I'm really only taking away 1 ounce. I should have about, so 4 taking away 1, I should have about 3 ounces left. And this is a more logical answer. So I know I'm on the right track. Again, we can look at this with our number lines based on starting with that total height or total value that we are beginning with and then taking away from it. So when we're taking away from our 3 and 7/10, which is the total amount of cheese to start with, we jumped all the way from taking away 1 whole. So 3 and 7/10 got us to 2 and 7/10. But when we were taking away the 1 and 4 hundredths, we still now need to take away that 4 hundredths. So we can count by 2s, our number lines by 2s again. So we could do that 2, 4, and where we end up is at, so if we have 2 and 6/10, this is 2 and 62, 2 and 64, 2 and 66, okay? Again, these models are just representing our values, improving how it is changing, seeing it in a different way, but ultimately we're shooting for you being able to calculate those numbers as well. So if we have our 3 and 7/10, and remember, how do we have to add and subtract decimals? We need to do what? Yeah, line up the place values, or you could say line up the decimal. But really, that's what's happening if you line up the decimal. So where am I going to put the 1? What place value is this 1 going to match up with? Yeah, it's going to match up with the 1's place value, and it's going to be under that 3. Then I have my decimal, my 0, and my 4. Now something interesting is going to happen here. Do you notice anything? A lot of students go, oh yeah, this is just a 4. But we're subtracting. If it was adding, it would be nothing plus 4. But since we're subtracting, if I have nothing, can I take 4 away? No. So this is where it's really crucial to put in those placeholders so that you can see I need to do what? I need to borrow. So now I can see that I need to do that, and I'm going to borrow from the next place value, just like we do with whole numbers. And now this can become a 10. And 10 minus 4 is 6. And 6 minus nothing is 6. Keeping my decimal. And 3 minus 1 is 2. So 2 and 66 ounces of fat cheddar cheese. Lining up those place values, putting in placeholder zeros, borrowing if we need to, okay? So for your practice, you are going to continue adding and subtracting those decimals and really analyzing which one's happening here from the story problem. Are we adding, are we subtracting? Doing some just the numbers and making sure we line up those place values and sometimes doing multiple different values together or taking away, okay? And so make sure with your story problems, you're also labeling. All right, let's see how you do on adding and subtracting decimals.